Welcome to the Seattle Investors Club podcast with Julie Clark and Joe Bauer, where we share the nuts and bolts of real estate investing from our 20-plus years in the industry. Sit back, relax, listen, and immediately take action. Are you ready? Here we go.
Welcome to the Nuts and Bolts of Real Estate Investing podcast. My name is Joe Bauer, and I'm here with my co-host, Julie Clark. Julie, how are you doing today?
I'm all warm and cozy over here in the hood, Joe, with a little bit of what I like to call the cute snow sprinkle. I am also this morning a master, and I do mean master at, juggling my life with everything going on here. Of course, they want to delay school, and they don't tell you till the morning, even if it just sprinkles a little bit over here. So I'm multitasking to the highest level today, and this is about the relaxed I've been in the last 3 hours this morning. So
nice.
I'm looking forward to this. Yeah. So where are you?
I'm still in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and it's a beautiful sunny day with snow all around. Probably like 3 feet of snow on the ground here.
So jealous. So jealous. Well, I don't know if you've been following the news over here, but Highway 2 is to Stevens Pass is kind of closed indefinitely for the moment or something.
Really?
It is because of unpredictable weather. Yeah.
Oh, man.
And the only reason that is okay with me is because I have a new listing, because I am a real estate broker coming on this weekend in Bellevue. So I'm excited about that. And I was like, oh God, I'm going to have to get somebody to cover my open houses. And, it's my friend that's giving me this listing, and I kind of feel like I need to be there, and it might actually all work out because I might not be able to hit the mountain because the highways are closed. So, a little bit of that. Also teetering into the bad mom zone because I am 100% willing to cut school as soon as the roads open so we can get up there and get our snowboarding in, since we all, in the meantime, will be living vicariously through you. So awesome that you're in Colorado, because our guest today is in Denver. I don't know how far Steamboat Springs is from Denver at all, but maybe you and Jason are going to be able to give yourselves a passing high five at some point. Who knows?
Yeah.
So welcome.
3.5 hours, yeah.
3.5 hours. Hey, Jason, we got Jason Nickel with us today. Hi, Jason.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So everybody out there in podcast land, today we are going to do a deep dive on compliant text messaging for real estate and other real estate lead generation services with the founder of Lead Sherpa. We're totally stoked today to have Jason Nickel with us. Such an important platform that we all need to know about. If you're not using text messaging for your real estate business already, you are way behind the times. And today we're going to do a deep dive on how we can be compliant and how Lead Sherpa can help us do that. And that kind of leads us to the question of why are we even talking about this today? And that is because text message marketing, I think they might call that SMS prospecting is another way to say it, produces higher engagements, faster response rates, and higher response rates, as well as super time efficiency. If you guys all go and check out the Lead Sherpa website, which we hope you all do during or after this podcast, Joe, you're going to put a link to it, I'm sure, in the show notes. You'll see, according to Lead Sherpa, 90% of all text messages are read in 3 seconds. 98% of text messages are read by the recipient, and the response rate is over 30%. And super more efficient because, compared to cold calling and direct mail, it's instantaneous. So it's sort of a no-brainer that you guys all, whether you're an investor or wholesaler or real estate broker, or my favorite, a broker investor, need to add text messaging into your lead generation platform. Absolute no-brainer. So with that said, let's get to know Jason and dive into it. So we always kick off with the first question that Joe Bauer will kick us off with here today, Jason. And we look forward to getting to know you.
All right, guys.
So, Jason, first question is that we like to get to know you guys, our guests, a little bit better and hear about how you grew up, where you grew up and how that took you or brought you to where you are today.
Sure. I was born and raised in Manhattan, Kansas, otherwise known as the Little Apple. And I went to college also in Kansas, played football my freshman, sophomore year in college. Realized I went to a small college, realized that wasn't for me. So I wanted to go back closer to where my folks were just for the time being to finish out my time in college at K-State. So I graduated at Kansas State University with a degree in fine arts, communication arts, graphic design. Figured out I didn't know what I wanted to do all through college. And finally at the end, when it came time to decide what my core classes were going to be around, I decided, all right, fine, I'm just going to draw for a living. That seems easy enough. The tests can't be that hard. So let's pick this direction and run with it. And plus I had seen some projects that a friend was working on, and it seemed appealing or attractive to me. So graduated with a graphic design degree, started making websites, drawing logos, brochures, that kind of stuff, out here actually in Denver. So I got a job right out of college working for a landscape architecture company, and enjoyed it for a few years, worked for 2 or 3 different companies, and started working on my own, created my own company, Nickel Creative, did some more design work, freelancing for 2 or 3 years, and realized pretty quickly that wasn't going to pay the bills, at least in the way that I wanted it to, right? So I wanted freedom, and I'd always had an interest in real estate, and really just decided to give it a shot. So I did my first deal back in, I believe it was 2014. It was a subject to deal. Still have that, or I still own that property today. Actually, it's one of our rental properties. But the rest is history. I did my first wholesale a year later, joined a mastermind a year after that. So I believe that was 2016. Masterminds, by the way, are an incredibly powerful way to accelerate your learning, your growth. Are you guys a part of any masterminds?
We are the mastermind. Yeah, no, we have we do that in town through Seattle Investors Club, but we are also part of, we all have our real estate guru plug-in here or there, but
Sure.
I don't know if you're talking about something like Collective Genius or something like that, which we are not a part of at this point, but we actually, for those of you, most of you listening know, we have a weekly mastermind with, I think the fact that it's local, it is so crazy powerful. It's changed my life, and it's changed the life and accelerated those who join us for sure. So 1,000,000% agree with you on the mastermind. But, I actually think the smaller groups, like maybe up to 25 people max, is where the real power comes in. You start bigger than that, and it becomes a whole different feeling. So we like the smaller groups. That's why we do so many, is because people can come in and out weekly. It is crazy awesome. Maybe if you come out for, the Pacific Northwest Big Badass Conference we were talking about, maybe you can join us at one. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'd love that. And I agree with you. There's value to be had in both settings. CG you mentioned is a great one. But I'm a member of a couple other smaller ones that are in the 20 to 40 person number range. And you become really good, close friends with the people that you're a part of that with, and they almost over time, over the course of a couple of years, they become to be almost like family. So it's.
I agree. Are the ones that you're involved in, are those local ones, or are you, because you're Lead Sherpa guy and everybody wants, that's a great service, are you part of more of a national big player club one, with some of the big guys, or are you talking about in the Denver area?
I'm actually not in any local masterminds, believe it or not. So I joined my first mastermind in 16, and that was with a bigger national one, and then a few of us decided that we were going to make our own. And I'm actually not allowed to talk about it, so I can't even tell you the name of it.
No worries, I get it. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, isn't who's coming to our Pacific Northwest Seattle market over here is Clear Sale.
Okay.
You know those guys? Do you know?
Yes. That would be Jason Byrne, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, they are. I would say it's not even close. They're probably by far the biggest wholesaler type investor here in the Denver market, but they're also in Seattle, if I understand or if I remember correctly. But they're all across the Front Range. And Jason Byrne is a fantastic businessman and just a good person who I've learned a lot from myself.
Yeah. I worked with them closely for a while when they entered our market here because they didn't have anybody on the ground. But it seems like I'm not sure they're kind of pop in and pop out here. Or sometimes I'll say it's loud and sometimes it's not. So, but yeah, awesome. That's my Denver connection there. But
Sure.
Good stuff. It's funny because after a while, everybody kind of gets somehow plugged in and connected. It's pretty interesting, to watch it all happen where people are cross-marketing or helping each other or masterminding, like you said, at the higher levels. So good stuff. Well, let's get back to Lead Sherpa
Sure.
and jump into that. So, okay, well, we got sidetracked there about Masterminds. So you had your nickel creative, you decided, then you became an investor yourself in 2014, and you started wholesaling in 2015 maybe, and joined that mastermind in 2016. What happened after that?
We started throwing a lot of money at direct mail, right? And because that's at the time what most people were doing. This is before people really started doing a whole lot of calling. Direct mail was kind of the thing. So I was following suit and just plowing lots and lots of money into it. And it became, over time, less effective. And I had an idea about how to just start hitting people in a more economical way that would return, quicker results. And that was through text messaging. So, I had probably 2 or 3 really big mailings that went nowhere, and that's not sustainable. And, we're talking spending anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 on a campaign. You do that 2 or 3 times and you don't get, you just get a small handful of leads back and very, very little return. You realize pretty quickly something's got to change. So we kept mailing while I figured something out, but we scaled it back a little bit and started to diversify our marketing channels a little bit more, which is what I should have done all along, but you learn the hard way. And
been there, done that. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. And our market too, like for example, PPC, you're paying $100, $120 just for a click. And, that's another channel that's not sustainable if you're not converting. So, came up with the idea to start texting people to generate leads. And the idea was just to merge in, specific pieces of information about the property and the recipient's name, to make every message unique to the recipient and really make it look like it's, coming from someone who's genuinely interested, in purchasing the property or what the status of that property might be. And so
would it be fair to say it's kind of the modern way of direct mail, just through text, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I say it's kind of the equivalent of a digital postcard, right? That's delivered instantly. It's just a mail merge done through text is really all it is.
Exactly.
So found a developer through a mutual acquaintance who helped me create the minimum viable product, because at this point I wasn't doing it really to share with anybody else. I was doing it to solve my own problem, which was, how do I lower my cost per lead? We were somewhere in the $6,000 to $7,000 per deal range. Our cost per lead was anywhere from $200 to $350 per lead through direct mail and on our other marketing channels. So I wanted to do anything I could to lower that and keep more of the money that we were making when we finally work. I mean, we've always been pretty good about our conversion rates, but it just became more difficult to generate the leads in that economical way that was sustainable.
Well, and then one part to touch on is you want it to be scalable, right? I mean, rather than one off, which is, right? So
exactly.
I am living your same pain of your story. Like I said, we're following, at least I wasn't smart enough to start something like Lead Sherpa. So, but I'm with you so far. So keep on trucking here. Then what happened?
Well, we made the first iteration of it, and I dumped a bunch of data into it and started texting people and got a lot of responses. But most of them were telling me I had the wrong number and it just didn't go anywhere. And so, it was kind of disappointing, actually. I let a buddy of mine use it, didn't hear from him for a couple of months. And I kind of shelved Sherpa. We used it for maybe a month and a half, 2 months towards the end of 2017, I believe it was. And beginning of 2018, I heard back from this guy and he said, "Hey, dude, Sherpa is killing it for us. We've made, this month we're going to bring in something like $275,000. We've only spent 10 grand.
Wow.
And at that point I was like, okay, what's going on here?
Was that a Denver guy or?
No, he was down in Phoenix, actually. And I think he's in a few different markets now, but he was down in Phoenix, which is another really competitive market. And so for him to come back and tell me that, it opened my eyes. I said, all right, let's take another look at this and see what we're doing wrong. And I realized pretty quickly what the problem was we weren't using good data. So the phone numbers that I was feeding into the system, I just subscribed to some cheap leads, provider online, and you could get basically all the phone numbers you wanted for a flat fee, but they were trash. And so if you're not hitting the right people, you're really making people more mad than anything else, because they're all telling you they sold the house, 6 months ago, 2 years ago, or that's their brother, that's their sister, whatever, that's their parent. So got a much better data source after talking with my friend about what he was doing specifically, and it was all downhill from there, right? So now we're hitting the right people. We're instantly generating leads. I think we got our first deal locked up within the first probably week or two of changing our data source, and then we scaled it up. And the rest is history, really. I used it all of 2018 for my company, and then let some of my closer friends in this mastermind, one of these masterminds that I mentioned earlier, start to use the product or the service, and all those guys are actually still using it today. So some of our first beta testers, it's still working for them now. Well, over a year and a half later.
Wow, that is a good story. I love it. You're just trying to solve your own problem. Came up with, an idea. I imagine, I think it feels like everybody's caught on to it. If you don't know about, text message marketing, these guys today, then you probably have had your head in the sand a little bit. So let's dive into some details about it. So we're going to go a little basic just to get started, and then we'll rev the engine up and go a little deeper here. But so tell us all, for those that are, trying to know what's up, but what does TCPA compliant mean, and why should all of us real estate investors, wholesalers, brokers, you're a broker, kind of know what this means, but if you're an investor and a wholesaler and a cowboy or a cowgirl, which I call people that just go for it without actually studying all the rules, why do we care about what TCPA compliant means?
Yeah, so the TCPA is the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, and that is a very large bill that I think it was first passed in '94, and it's had many different iterations since then that have been necessary in order to kind of keep up with technology, because obviously back in '94 there was no text messaging or ringless voicemail or any of that stuff. So, but you want to be compliant, obviously, because you want to do things the right way. There are services out there that'll allow you to blast out thousands of messages to tens of thousands of people all at one time, and that's not legal, right? So we figured out, after looking at the law and consulting with two different independent TCPA focused attorneys, that if you do things the right way, it is possible to make a system that is capable of reaching out to people without consent, but still do it in a compliant way, right? So there's two things that you have to remember. Number one, you can't sell anything, right? So if you're going to reach out to somebody without their permission, it cannot be a solicitation. You've got to be making legitimate offers to purchase property. At least that's how our system is set up. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, you cannot use what's called an auto dialer. Okay, so if you click the send button one time, and it sends out 1,000 messages or queues up a bunch of prospects to be messaged, that would not be legal, right? Because it at that point is operating without human intervention in between each message that's being sent. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we created Sherpa to be scalable in that you can upload, a massive set of data into a campaign, and it will mail merge in, like we discussed earlier, people's information. So once you have your messaging set up, all you have to do is click that button, but you can click the send button in 30 seconds, maybe 200 times. So it is still relatively scalable while still maintaining compliance. At least we believe it to be, and our attorneys believe it to be too. And I will tell you that we sent, over the course of the last 12 months, I believe let me just pull it up. I've got the number right here. We've sent 120 million messages over the last 12 months. And to my knowledge, none of our users, and we've got over 3,000 skiptrace and text message users across the country right now. To my knowledge, nobody's had any issue with the law. We've had a couple inquiries that we've worked through with the different attorneys general of the states that have made those inquiries, but those complaints always get dropped. So that tells me we're doing something right.
That is fantastic. Yeah, I mean, because otherwise, you guys, if you're out there trying to be a cheap ass or do this on your own and figure it ain't going to happen to you, I mean, the fines are insane. And also the laws probably are going to continue to change and evolve. So speaking of that, Jason, it feels like, like we were talking about, so everybody was using direct mail. Right. They're using the yellow postcards. Then we get away from using the yellow postcards to all this other stuff. And then we get to Google Street View. And then, it's like a herd, right? Everybody starts making the shift, and then it's saturated. And, like we said, and then everybody starts RVM, everybody's using RVM, and then everybody this and that. And I wonder, what do you feel about what do you feel that text message marketing will get saturated the same?
Absolutely.
Right.
There's no getting around it. There's no question. Anybody who's honest with themselves, and I try to be as honest with myself as I can, because I built a business around this, but there's a limited lifespan to text message marketing. We think we know we have some really good ideas on how to prolong the longevity of it. And make our system, the best that it can be, and while still maintaining compliance. But at the end of the day, it's still going to eventually become less effective as more people move into this space. So,
well, and as because they'll change the laws, right? Don't you think?
The law, there's three different things that can happen, right? So the laws could change. The Trace Act just passed. That doesn't directly affect us because it's mostly focused on robocalling, which is not, as of right now, you cannot call through our system, and certainly will never be able to do any kind of robocalling. So that doesn't really directly affect us, but the laws could change more quickly, though. Something that could happen would be the carriers, which is this something that we're already seeing. Think Gmail spam filters, but for your phone. Right. So we see it happen where people will use the same phrasing as somebody else, or they'll continue to use their own phrasing that they came up with in their initial message without changing it over and over again. And it gets to the point where the carrier filters will pick up on those patterns and start to filter the messaging, so they just never get through. And we're very transparent.
I think you just touched upon a little major nugget there, a little teaching moment nugget, which is don't send the same message over and over, even though you're sending it to different people. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. What you want to do is alternate your messaging every couple hundred messages that you send out. Our system will do that for you automatically. If you're using another system, just keep that in mind. Also, make sure you're never sending any links. Don't ever send a link, at least if you're using a long 10-digit phone number, which you should be, because that shows that you're local, right? When you sign up for an account, you tell us what market you want to be in, and it'll go out and buy 30 phone numbers with your local area code. And that's good, because you want the message to be coming from, you don't want it to be a short code, those little 5-digit short codes that look super spammy.
Yes.
Unless you're opted in and expecting a message from that short code, that's something that most people will just turn around and delete right away, versus those 10-digit long codes. But there's trade-offs. The short codes you can send links through because they're basically whitelisted. But the 10-digit long codes, in Denver it's 720 area code. If you were to send links through those phone numbers, the phone carriers pick up on that very, very quickly, and they'll basically blacklist those phone numbers, so none of your messaging will get through.
Well, I'm thinking ahead here, and maybe this is part of what Lead Sherpa offers, but it seems like if somebody actually engages with you on one of your initial text messages on the long code using the full local phone number, then if you continue the conversation, which is what it is the conversation over text, you could shift to a short code because you're engaged, right? And somehow get a link in there on one of your conversations, or no? Does that make sense?
I don't recommend that. What I think the best approach is, we don't care, what somebody's asking price is. I don't care about the condition of the property. I'm just using this text message platform to get my foot in the door.
Right.
So I just want to identify people who have a house that they are willing to sell within the next month or 2 months, or the near future, really. Yeah, I've been thinking about selling sometime this year. Okay, let's get on a quick call and just chat about it, right? So I'm not going to try and do everything over text.
Right.
Qualify them just enough to where they've got a house that they would sell, then get them on the horn, figure out if they're a retail lead. If they are, shoot it. If you don't have a relationship with a licensed agent, you definitely should. And I know that you're licensed. This is a great way to generate in a roundabout sort of way retail type leads, because it's easier to find people who want full value for the property than it is for people who are willing to take a discount. So we get people that want to sell on the phone, determine at that point whether it's a wholesale type lead or a retail type lead, and then direct them to the proper funnel from there.
Right on. Yeah. So does Lead Sherpa have text messaging? Like when you plug into Lead Sherpa, are you guys, I know we upload a list, and then you're going to, you're going to merge or whatever we're calling it, merge it with the text message. Do you guys have text messaging series, I'll say, we'll call it a drip campaign through text that you let people plug into, or are they making up their own?
We used to tell people what to say because we had a few things that were working relatively well, but we found out again that everybody started saying the same thing, and then the carriers filtered those messages. And so now, to work around that, we don't tell people what to say, but we have We have 4 points or so that we suggest that you include in your messaging, and just make people come up with their own language, because that way it's all going to be more or less unique.
Right.
Rather than using, we used to have a phrase that we suggested people use when we first started doing this. It was out of the blue. So the message would say something like, hey, Jason, I see you own 123 Main Street. Sorry for the message out of the blue, but have you thought about selling the property? Something like that, right? And even though it was unique, because it would say 123 Main Street versus 127 Main Street versus whatever, because every recipient's getting a different address, that out of the blue phrase pattern was picked up on by the filters, by the carrier filters, and realized real quick then that we needed to change that. So we tell people, address the recipient by their first name, mention the property address, identify yourself by your first name, and then ask a question. Right. And you can reorder those things however you want to, come up with 10 or 15 different ways of saying the same thing, and then just cycle through your messaging. And we've got a big update that's coming out that actually will do all this automatically here. So that's going to be dropping the next month or so.
So that means that we can upload our 15 messages, and then you will have some system to cycle through those.
Yep, exactly.
Sweetness, yeah. Hey guys, it's Julie here with a quick break from the show to discuss an opportunity some of you may have interest in, which is to work more closely with me. On almost a daily basis, I get calls from investors and brokers, both new and experienced, asking me for guidance or advice. I love helping you guys out, and it keeps me on my toes too. So with that said, I wanted to let you know that I have a private broker coaching community called the VIP Education Community. And the best part is that it's 100% free. That's right, it's free to join. So whether you're a traditional broker or a broker investor, my VIP education community offers personalized one-on-one coaching from not just me, but also from my experienced broker friends with expertise in all disciplines of real estate and real estate investing. We'll teach and share our modern marketing strategies, our tech and lead generation resources, plus teach you how to identify or offer up opportunities for yourself or for your clients using techniques such as seller financing, lease options, land entitlement deals, BRRRR investing, flipping, multifamily or commercial coaching, whatever you like. We've got it all covered for you. The future of real estate is changing fast, and to stay in the game, it's time to learn about all the options you can offer your buyer and seller clients, as well as, if you want, learn how to use those skills to grow your own real estate portfolio. If you'd like more details about joining my VIP education community, reach out to me at julie@seattleinvestorsclub.com or text me at 206-910-2985 or just send me a Facebook message. My new favorite phrase is community equals confidence. So let's navigate the future of real estate together. Now, back to the show. Good stuff. Are there, do you have any carriers that you know are more notorious for blocking? And we're talking about carriers. And when we're talking about carriers, are we talking about it being blocked from like your carrier or the recipient's carrier?
Like the carrier will block the recipient from receiving the message, period. So they just won't ever even get it.
So it's their carrier, right?
Yeah.
Is it, because I think like if you plug into, and I'm totally could be a dork here, which is not going to be the first time. But you can actually see, I think, the carrier people are on when you like plug them into something like People Smart.
Yep.
Is there some carriers that you may or may not want to mention that are more notorious for shutting down? Like, cause that goes into lead list building right there as a ninja list build to avoid, or to make a priority of different carrier than that.
Yeah, I see your point, but at the same time, you're going to be filtering out a lot of people that could potentially have houses for sale. So I wouldn't filter out. Let's say, just for argument's sake, that Verizon was notorious for filtering messages more aggressively than any other carrier. I would still want to hit everybody on Verizon if I could. I'm not going to filter out people that are on a Verizon list because that's going to limit my my possibility of finding properties to purchase. So I'm going to hit everyone. I'm just going to follow the best practices, and that is come up with 10 or 15 different messages, cycle through them. Every 1 to 200 messages you send out, don't ever include links. Get back to people quickly. Within the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes, my team is tasked to respond to every incoming response within 5 minutes, right? Don't wait for a day to get back to people. Keep your character count under 160. So that's a short text. You don't want to write a book and send it out to somebody in the first message that you send to them, because it's going to, number one, it's going to raise a little bit of a flag on the carrier side. Number two, it's going to be broken up into multiple messages, right? Depending on how long it is. Somebody will get 3 messages versus the one that you sent, and they all might come in different order, right? And
Right.
One of them may not even get delivered. So it would be possible.
If you, sorry to use the phrase, shoot your wad all in one thing, you have no excuse to continue the conversation. You've said it all in one blob there. So
exactly.
that all makes super awesome sense. Wow, really good stuff here, guys. You guys, this is Deep Dive Ninja. You guys all owe me lunch when you see me for having Jason on the podcast today. And believe me, I will be collecting, because I will be, forgetting my wallet, now and again, which I'm notorious for doing. But let's move on here. This is so awesome. So what is a litigator database, and why should that be part of the reason and essential for us to maybe use Lead Sherpa for your services? What is the litigator database?
Yeah, so we go out and we pull down phone numbers and names from people who have litigated against people like us, right? Or really anybody out there who has filed a lawsuit in the TCPA realm saying, hey, this person called me or this person texted me and they shouldn't have. We've got what I believe to be the most comprehensive list in the United States of all those types of people, because what we'll do is we go directly to the source and we pull down the case files, and if the phone numbers are truncated or not complete, we'll still skip trace the people that are mentioned, everybody that's mentioned in the court documents, and append those phone numbers, get the full working phone numbers, right? And we do that every single day.
God, that sounds like a lot of work.
It is for the people who are doing it, but we've set up systems, so it's running on autopilot now. So what that means is now we've got a full, what I believe to be a comprehensive database that's updated every day of people who have proven to be litigious, that are problem causers, right? I mean, these are people that you just don't even want to message. And so we're skipping them. The system automatically will see that that's a number that should not be messaged. It'll skip it. It'll identify that prospect in the system as the litigator, and flag them. So you won't contact them again. And our skip trace, we also sell data. Our skip trace, I believe, also is the best in the country. And I'm biased, obviously, but we include that litigator scrub in the skip trace too, so you can see a prospect is flagged if they're a litigator.
Right on. I mean, so there's other services out there that are related to driving for dollars, and a lot of great services out there and stuff like that, guys. But I mean, literally, and they have maybe some skip trace attached to them. I've used some of them myself. Hit and miss on success rate of skip trace, which we'll talk about in a minute. But just for this reason alone, I believe that this sets you guys apart. Not only are you on top of the TCPA compliance stuff, which is huge. I think there's a lot of services out there like, yeah, we'll skip trace you and get this information for you, but then that's what we're doing and you're on your own, and it's like a 40% hit rate or 50% hit rate or something like that. You guys, you can get your ass sued if you don't do this properly, and it's going to be more and more regulated. So it is essentially like do you want to do it the right way, or do you want to just do it? Right. Today we're talking about doing it the right way. And all of you know here at the Nuts and Bolts of Real Estate Investing and Seattle Investors Club, the only thing I care about at night is sleeping well, and hanging out with my kids and stuff like that. So if you are of that mind where you are a rule follower and you don't feel like you need to be a cowboy, this is quickly becoming obvious why you're going to want to use Lead Sherpa for your text messaging services, because you're going to get your butt sued. And I know you think it won't happen to you until it does. And we're talking big fines, big fines. How about list building? How important is list building in the text message game? It's so efficient, fast, easy.
Yeah.
With direct mail, you are dead if you do not have a great, well-built list. You are just wasting your money. But how do you compare that to text messaging? And really, really, obviously, everybody wants a killer list, and that's like the number one top thing you can have as a real estate investor or broker or anybody in marketing is a good list. Tell me about your feelings on that and how it relates to Lead Sherpa.
I believe, and I see it time and time again across all of our what I like to call power users, right? It's not nearly as important with text messaging as you would think it would be, right? So that's a question that we get all the time. Who do I target? What's the best list? And people like to talk about it on the Facebook group. And I always tell them, look, you can start out with your direct mail list because you've already curated those, right? You already know those are people who you would buy a house from if the price were right. So start there. That's fine. If you really want to go after the niche lists, pre-foreclosures or tax defaults, if you want to stack your list, that's fine. Go ahead and do that. And there's probably going to be a higher probability that you're going to close a deal off of a stacked list than a general broad, let's call it an absentee list. But you're going to blow through those niche lists very quickly.
Unless you're a real estate broker and you don't care, right?
Well, yeah. For me, here's my list. I target everybody in Denver, let's say Denver County, who hasn't sold in the last 5 years at or around the median price point. So I'm not going after $1 million homes. I'm going after $400,000 to $500,000 homes and below. 1 to 10 units built prior to the year 2000. Okay. So that's a big bulk list for that county. That might give me 70, 80, 90,000 properties. And I'm good for a couple months on that, at least. Most people that would take 6 months or longer to go through, probably longer. But what that does is you're getting all of those niche lists by default because you're hitting everybody who hasn't sold recently, right? So I'm getting all the pre-foreclosures, maybe not as timely as I would like, but I'm getting them. I'm getting the tax defaults. I'm getting all the tired landlords, all the absentees. I'm getting everybody, right? And so, as you work through that list, you're going to get deals that you wouldn't otherwise normally get, because you're going to be targeting owner occupants who are going through issues maybe that, wouldn't really come up if you were trying to curate a list that's specific to other distress indicators. So, we get deals that we never would otherwise normally get because of our targeting like that, our broad targeting.
All right. Let me ask you something, and I'm going to go backwards for a second, which makes it super awesome, right? And in some ways it makes it a little bit easier because that's list building can be time consuming. And not to say, like you said, you guys already have these lists probably because you've been doing it, everybody's been doing it for so long, through direct mail, they have all these lists. But how we said, if you're going to market to someone without permission, that you can't sell anything, right? So you can't, that also means you cannot offer any services, correct?
Correct.
So pretty much you just have to say, hey, I'm interested to buy your house. I'd like to buy your house, right? You can't say, you can't offer any type of broker services for all you brokers listening.
The way that we do it, that's a great point. The way that we do it is we we have a Zillow information right there, so you can quickly click through and see roughly what this estimate would be. Which in most areas, I would say it's within 5% of true value, 5 to 10, even 10%. So we just use that Zillow value as a rough gauge. And so if somebody just immediately comes back and says, all right, I want 430,000 for my property, and I click through the Zillow and Zillow says it's worth, 425. Okay. I'm just going to go back to them. I'm going to say, hey, I'm sorry. I did a quick look and it doesn't look like I can meet your price expectations, but I got a really good real estate agent on our team that I can refer you to who can help you get full value for the property. I'm going to go ahead and put them in touch with you. I just kind of assume the sale, right? Yeah. And most people at that point, technically, it's legal to do because our original intent was not to get the listing, and we can refer that retail lead out to somebody really who's technically not even in my company, right? I'm associated with them, but they're not under the umbrella of my LLC.
So you're not really offering them a service.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And when I assume that sale, I just say, hey, I'm going to put them in touch with you. Most people either don't say anything or they say, okay. And if they already have an agent they're working with, they'll say, sorry, my brother's a licensed agent. I'm just going to use them.
I'm curious
no problem.
Curious on that, being selfish right now as a real estate broker and an investor and all that, is I have found with direct mail marketing, where we have wholesalers or investors out there doing direct mail and they run into a situation that's more of a retail lead, that it is very difficult for them to make that referral, like a successful referral. It seems not to work very well, mainly because there's probably no rapport building and they probably aren't saying exactly the right things and need more training. But are you seeing actually, is that kind of just like a bonus? Is actually a business plan that works to refer?
It works.
Is it working?
It actually works. If you do it the right way, it certainly does work. Now, rapport is definitely important. So we find that the best leads that we refer over, the best retail leads that we refer over, are the ones that we actually have spoken to on the phone first. And that's when you've actually had a chance to build a little bit of rapport. And maybe you've had one or two conversations with them. Maybe someone from your team even met with them, and you determine at that point, there's just no way you can buy it at the price that they want. At that point, they've been talking to you now a couple of times. And it's a really warm retail lead, right? And so you refer those over, and those close just about every time.
So for any of you guys listening that want to attempt this system with me as your broker, let's talk about it, because I actually think it would help maybe even for that broker. I know Joe's probably off running a trail right now as we're doing this, but I think Eric, Joe's old partner, Eric B., you might even know Eric B., but they used to go on the appointment with a broker and the wholesaler together. So you're just right there. It had to go one way or another. So if any of you guys want to try that with yours truly, I promise you I'm a good broker, and we can have some successes if you want to jump on the text messaging thing. But we'll talk about that later at one of our meetups. That's awesome. This is so good. So let me ask you, what's the most challenging part for you of running Lead Sherpa? What's your biggest challenge?
I as a founder wear a lot of different hats, and so I'm trying to backfill some of these positions to buy back my time. And so we're in the middle of hiring more customer support. We've already got what I think was world-class customer support. They're tasked with getting back to people within 10 minutes on business days. And they do that consistently. I can read the reports to see that is happening, and we get positive reviews, glowing reviews back from all of our users. So keeping that customer support intact as we grow and understand really what we need to do in order to stay competitive and a leader in the space. I'm going to hire some sales people to really help out again with buying back my time. But it's been a challenge to juggle all of these things at once. We're still a very lean company considering how much we've grown, but it's been an honor to get to meet everybody that has started to use the system and see it work for people and see how it's changed their businesses.
And what do you feel is the golden nugget about Lead Sherpa that sets you apart from anybody else or any other company that might attempt to do this? What are you offering that nobody else does, or are you just better at it and more systematic about it?
Well, all of the above, but I mean, we were the very first one to the space, so clearly there's going to be copycats that come in and try and copy what we're doing. But I built it for myself, for my own business, right? This isn't something I saw someone else doing that said, okay, there's a way to capitalize off of this. I see what the need is out there, and I'm filling the gap, filling that void with a product that can truly make a difference in people's businesses. And so I care about our users, I care about our customers, and I think that's the main thing. This is not just a money-making endeavor for us. We're really looking to change people's lives and businesses through this thing. And that may sound a little corny, a little cheesy.
No, it doesn't, because that's who we actually associate ourselves with at Seattle Investors Club. Our hard money lender, I want to give a shout out to, that actually does business in Denver. If you haven't used them or heard of them or met them yet, they're called Certain Lending. Okay. And of course, there's a lot of hard money lenders out there, but they have the same moral compass and the same business. They are there to help people. They're not, like just looking at how to max out the most money they could ever make. They are innovative. They just came out. We just recorded a commercial with them yesterday about a new 30-year loan product as essentially that they're offering that you can't even get at any banks. So I would love for you to talk to our Certain Lending squad. They're in all states. They're a startup out of San Francisco, and I hope you look them up. And I hope you come out to the conference, the Pacific Northwest Big Badass Real Estate Conference. Everybody is coming up in April. Shout out to Tarl and Grace Yarber, our friends. We can help promote that for them. Go get your tickets, everybody. It's going to be double the size that it was last year. Probably it's going to be insane. But Jason, we hope you come out and you can meet Certain Lending for sure at that event. But why wait? Because I think they might add something of super value and have the same mindset as you do on how they operate their business. So can't say enough about that. Well, this isn't just a podcast sponsor thing where we are having to say this because they are close with us and a sponsor of our podcast, which they are. They are the legit big time shit that have products just like you that nobody else has. So check them out. But one thing I want to point out about Lead Sherpa is, don't you guys have like some insane hit rate on your skip tracing, like 90%, 90, I don't know, something huge.
97. Yeah, we made an update a couple of months ago that pushed us up into the 97% range. Hit rate is important. I mean, you never want to see a big chunk of your list go without data appended to it, right? I mean, that's nobody wants to see that. But match rate is even more important than hit rate, right? And that's the amount of people that you're actually reaching that you want to reach. And we've got a very high match rate too. It's obviously, it varies depending on the list and the market that you're in, and then the quality of the data that you start with. But we've got some really cool things that we're doing on the back end, in the background, before we ever even send it off to our data providers to be searched, that consistently yields better returns, better results than anything else out there. I mean, I have people tell me all the time, you can come to our site right now, run a list of 1,000 people and have it back in less than 10 minutes.
I mean, right there, guys, that when I was trying to let him brag on himself, so I want to help him along there, just right that there is a reason, again, that sets them apart. I mean, I've used skip tracing services and things like that myself as well. And the problem is they don't have the results. They're attached to cool apps and stuff, but they don't have the results. You might use some cool app to get your list built and pull a list down, but then I would take that and throw it up here into Lead Sherpa and use them for their skip tracing and their other services. So, hey, what CRM? I know you guys can plug into Podio and all that stuff, but what are you guys using for your own team or for CRM, or is this a CRM by itself?
I did not design it to be a CRM because I knew that most people had that set up already. I personally use Podio. I went down the Podio rabbit hole for quite some time over the last few years, and I have a highly customized version of it for my own business. But Podio is great.
Are you using InvestorFuse or Podio? Because we are also in that rabbit hole with you.
Yeah, but it'll connect. It'll connect to virtually any system out there that has a Zapier app, and we're building an open API for the system as well. That's going to allow import and export of data on a much larger scale, and give give all of our users much more flexibility with everything that the databases that are created in the data that is derived from all these different campaigns is very valuable, and so we want to give people the ability to access that.
Do you know what CaveyCore is?
I've heard of it.
CaveyCore. I'd be curious to know. That's super, super powerful. The company, you can look it up if you look at Inside Real Estate. You should do that because that is the swanky CRM that a lot of big brokerage firms or brokers use. It's super powerful. But I'd be curious to know, maybe we can follow up and see if you guys can plug in CaveyCore. We call it CaveyCore, but you might check out InsideRealEstate.com.
Okay.
Kind of their generic name. So little side note on that. So let's talk about, how about payment? Who can use this? Are there subscriptions? I think you have some sort of threshold you have to be a certain level of investor to do certain things. Explain to us about who can use Lead Sherpa, and all that stuff, costs.
Sure. Anybody can use the SkipTrace platform. We don't limit access to that. As far as the texting portion of the site, and soon to be other services that we're going to be adding over the course of 2020, we want to give as many people access to this as possible, but we don't want to oversaturate markets, and we also want to make sure that we're setting people up for success. So if you haven't done a deal yet, there are exceptions, and we certainly make exceptions all the time. But if you haven't done a deal yet, maybe start with a SkipTrace, start calling some people, text people on your own, and then come back to us when you're ready to commit to. We have a 3-month minimum commitment, at least initially, and then it goes month to month. You don't have to pay for it all up front, but we do that to prevent people coming in and kicking the tires for 2 weeks and then leaving. We already know the system works. It works very well. We just don't want to waste time with people.
Well, exactly. You don't want a bunch of newbies that are going to wreck the oversaturation and make mistakes, as well. I get that. So anybody can use the skip tracing service, which is, I think, about 15 cents per file or what?
Per hit. Yeah, per hit. And that'll give you let me say just one thing. I have nothing against newbies or new people to the game. Everybody's got to start somewhere. We just want to make sure that you've got a marketing budget in place that can be sustained for a period of time, and you know how to close the leads that you generate through the system. And if you don't have a sales process and a CRM, set up and in place, the possibility or the chances of you being successful using our system just go way down. So that's why we just want to make sure we're working with people who have those things in place first.
And so what if somebody is newer or just getting in their first few months? What do you suggest they do to get into the text messaging game? Obviously, they can use the skip tracing to get the contact information, which is crucial to be even able to play in this world. But what did they do? They just, listen to the podcast, get studied up on this, take all the notes that are awesome, ask me questions because now I know you, and maybe I'll come back at you with some questions that we have at a different time, or maybe we'll be all lucky enough to meet you here in April if you come out to the conference. But how do they just text message on their own and be careful and take all these notes and listen today and get started that way?
Yeah, they can text on their own, pick up the phone, start calling people. That's not the most fun thing to do, but it teaches you how to talk to your prospects the right way, how to ask the right questions, and determine whether or not you're actually speaking with a lead, right? If you just take the easy way and just start texting people, there's going to be a lot of leads that slip through the cracks. And I think it's important for people who are newer to the game to understand how to properly talk to their prospects, to the people who they're trying to buy houses from, and understand how all that fits together, and then move on to texting. So get a deal or two, and then come talk to us. We're happy to chat with you really at any time.
Another thing I want to tell you guys is, we already have people in Seattle Investors Club that are using Lead Sherpa, and that probably after listening to this podcast will go ahead and use Lead Sherpa as well, if they're not already. And, there's an opportunity for you, as we say, as new investors. You should always try and maybe partner up with somebody more experienced than you. It's a great idea to get some stuff under your belt, get stuff on your resume, so to speak, for the hard money lenders and the conventional lenders that you're going to need to be talking to, is to kind of ride along with more experienced investors. And you could be of great value to them, because it sounds like, with using a service like Lead Sherpa, they're probably going to elevate their game, and they might need people to assist going on appointments or following up. And you guys have an opportunity to plug in. I highly encourage you to, like I said, partner up with somebody that is a little more experienced, that is going to be able to use all the services that Lead Sherpa offers out the gate. So, okay, we're going to start wrapping it down here. Let's see, Jason, what kind of other favorite apps or tools or tech stuff do you use in your own business or your own daily life to survive with your family? We like to always hear what kind of stuff other people are using, plugins, whatever you call it. I'm not a tech person, so I'm sure I said that like a dork, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, sure. Oh boy, let's see. Where do I start? We use Slack all the time. So if you guys aren't using some kind of a chat program, if you have multiple people on your team, stay out of email. Everything gets bogged down and lost. That's very helpful. Plus, you can automate all kinds of stuff into Slack.
Joe and I are slackers ourselves. In fact, thought I was going to be late because of the snow today, and I had to Slack him to Slack you.
Yep.
Right
yep.
on.
I use Calendly all the time, right? So it's just a link that you can send people, and it automatically puts them on an available spot in your calendar. And I block out different time chunks and send people links based off of when I want to talk to them throughout the day. So that's been a big saver of time and not having to go back and forth. I use Feedly is a big one. It's an RSS feeder. So I probably have 200, maybe 300 different websites that I pull in news feeds from. So all I have to do is go to one website first thing in the morning and maybe once in the afternoon, and I can see all the different news channels that I'm interested in, and it breaks it down for me.
What are your top two news channels or news sources that you're interested in?
Let's see. Let me pull it up. I've got some local sources. I've got real estate. So if I were to open up the real estate, I've got Investor Carrot blog, Geek Estate blog, Hooked on Houses, Inman, Invest for More, Lob, Louisville Gal. There's probably 50 of them in there, right? I'm just reading off the top of my head here. I've got a bunch of soft.
Some of these in the show notes as he's rattling these off would be awesome.
Yeah, I could even maybe export out my list of blogs in a file that you can upload, and people could just import them directly if they wanted.
That would be fantastic. Thank you.
So that's a big one. It makes it easy to real quickly pull in information. We use Clubhouse, which is a software development tool, project management. Podio, I'm on Amazon all the time. I order probably 2 or 3 things a day, it seems like, from Amazon. Very wasteful as far as packaging goes, but extremely convenient. Man, I don't know. I could go on and on. I'm kind of a tech fanatic when it comes to this kind of stuff and making everything fit and work together. Zapier obviously is a big one.
Super awesome. How about podcasts? You have any podcasts that you listen to aside from my favorite one called The Nuts and Bolts of Real Estate Investing?
Yeah. I remember back in the day, I used to listen to Bigger Pockets a lot. I don't listen to podcasts a whole lot anymore now that I've kind of refocused my direction on things. I'd have to think about that and get back to you.
Okay, no worries. Well, that's it. I just want to point out one thing as we wrap up, because it's been so freaking awesome. This is a really big one here today, guys. This is I like to call it, we like to put a doctor's kit together, like a little starter doctor's kit for people in real estate, which includes, like checking in with your hard money lender every 6 months to know what new products they might have or whatever's going on, checking in with your conventional lender to know when you screw up on your deals that you can get out of them or do burrs or whatever you need to do. And I think we're going to add this podcast into the mix on our starter kit. This is such great information and such current way of operating business. It's crucial. I mean, if you're not text messaging today, you're way behind the times. So we thank you again so much for joining us today, and really, really hope we get to see you out here in April. And if you do, we're going to twist your arm and wine and dine you to get you over to one of our meetups, which are during the daytime every week. So
All right.
One last thing I'll say is on the Lead Sherpa website, and we'll let Justin tell us how they can connect and engage with Lead Sherpa in a second here. But I just want to say to everybody that he's not your lawyer. And one thing that I like on his website, on the FAQs on the Lead Sherpa website, it says, "Can I still get sued?" And your answer, Jason, is absolutely. And I want to make sure that everybody knows that real estate investing and marketing, there's risks in our business and everything that we do. That doesn't mean you shouldn't move forward, because you got an A-team player here that is doing their best they can to help you stay compliant, and probably more compliant than anywhere else you're going to find. So again, you're all big boys and big girls. Play by the rules and learn the rules for yourself, and operate with a moral compass. That's what we like to do here at Seattle Investors Club. And we like to surround ourselves with people that do the same. So,
yep. Good advice.
We're going long here today. I think you guys have heard me say 1,000,000 times. So I'm going to just blow over it really quick here, that we have weekly meetups that are insane, where we have these face-to-face discussions, such as we had virtually here with Jason today, with small group mastermind discussions every week, every Tuesday in Burien at Angelo's, which is a great place to also get a beef cannelloni from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. every single Tuesday. Don't ask me, "Hey, Julie, is it you guys having a meetup on Tuesday?" Yes, that's what every single Tuesday means, guys. And every single Thursday, we have our Pierce County meetup that just kicked off here in January in Milton, at the Milton Lodge from 9:30 to 11:30. Look for Larry and Mariska. I think you guys know who they are. They're co-hosting that with me out there in Milton. And then additionally on Thursdays, every single Thursday, for you East Siders out in Redmond, we have our meetup from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Family Pancake House. And we also have a Kitsap one in Silverdale. That is, I think it's the second Monday of every month in the evening out in Silverdale at Fueller's Cafe, with our buddy Dave Billings hosting that one. And we have our Burlington Skagit County meetup, additionally, which I can never remember the right day, but it is coming up here shortly. And you need to check the Seattle Investors Club Facebook page, but it is in Burlington at Bob's Burgers and Brews, hosted by our friend Julia Phillip, who's our co-host and partner out there. So please jump on, no matter where you are. If you're in Oregon, or you're in Orlando, or you're in wherever you are across these great lands, because we know you're listening and we appreciate that. Please join us and jump on our Seattle Investors Club Facebook page, because that's where we have a lot of announcements and reminders. And it'll also give us a chance to get you on our email list, so you get reminded of all the goodness coming from the nuts and bolts of real estate investing in Seattle Investors Club. So thanks again, Jason and Joe. Always love you, brother. Be safe out there as you guys are tooling around the mountains and driving around in our cute little, snow here in the Seattle area. And I'll catch you guys later. Over and out.
Thanks for listening to the Seattle Investors Club podcast. If you have questions that you'd like to have answered on the show, shoot us an email at info@seattleinvestorsclub.com. Now go out, take that action, and build that real estate business. Thanks for listening.